Jungkook's silent cry during his last military training. Is there a problem with the agency? Unofficial footage shows BTS star looking distressed. Is BIGHIT hiding a deepening rift? Why would the most resilient member of BTS suddenly break down? Especially in the one place he was supposed to remain the strongest, the world wasn't supposed to see it. It wasn't part of the script. But when a leaked clip, only seconds long, surfaced on social media showing Jungkook seemingly wiping away tears during what appears to be his final round of military drills, the fandom froze. No words, no statements, just his silhouette, drenched in sweat, body rigid with discipline, yet visibly trembling in the corner of a cold training ground. The moment was brief, but the emotional shock it triggered was immense. Why was Jungkook crying? Why was no one around him reacting? And why has BIGHIT Entertainment, so famously protective of its artists, remained completely silent? It's a silence that's begun to sound like a scream. In the span of just a few hours, hashtags exploded. Hashtag protect Jungkook. Hashtag what is BIGHIT hiding? And hashtag Jungkook we are with you trended in multiple countries. Fans began analyzing the footage frame by frame, noting his posture, his expression, the slight turn of his body away from the camera as if deliberately shielding his face. Was he overwhelmed by emotion? Was this a moment of physical exhaustion? Or something far more personal? Theories multiplied, and with them came one chilling idea that refuses to go away. There's something deeply wrong between Jungkook and BIGHIT. This isn't the first time such speculation has taken hold. For the past several months, every public development around Jungkook has felt off. From his ambiguous solo promotions before enlistment, to his surprising lack of digital content in the weeks following his military start, to the growing whispers that he's requested a delay in group activities post-discharge, fans have noticed the patterns. The sudden cancellations, the vague captions, the disconnected tone in his letters. Could the leaked military footage be the emotional tipping point that confirms what so many have quietly suspected? Some insiders believe one former stylist for a HYB-affiliated project, speaking on condition of anonymity, told us. He didn't seem excited like the others. Even before enlistment, he'd become more quiet backstage. There was a tension, like he was trying to hold something in. Was that something building toward this moment? And why has BIGHIT Entertainment, the agency that once publicly went to war with malicious commenters just to protect Jungkook's image, now chosen to remain mute? Fans aren't buying the usual no comment. Not this time. Especially not when unofficial sources claim that BIGHIT has been internally panicked over Jungkook's emotional state for months. According to a leaked chat allegedly between agency staff, his team had flagged signs of mental and emotional burnout, even before basic training. They say he pushed himself harder than anyone else, to meet pre-enlistment schedules. And when the time finally came to step away from the stage, Jungkook didn't feel relieved. He felt empty. What caused this emotional fracture? One theory gaining traction is that Jungkook has grown frustrated with creative limitations. He's repeatedly hinted in interviews that he wants more control over his music, his image, and his message. But despite those hints, fans noticed that most of his solo releases still bore a heavy BIGHIT production fingerprint. Were his ideas being shut down behind the scenes? Was he being heard, but not truly listened to? Could that explain why he looked so broken during training? Not because of the drill, but because of what waited for him once it was over? And now, the most haunting question of all, is Jungkook afraid to come back? If so, it would explain everything. The delayed comeback, the canceled appearances, and now, the quiet, vulnerable collapse in a place that was supposed to be hidden from the world. But nothing stays hidden forever. Not when you're Jungkook. Not when you've spent your life under a microscope. And not when your silence speaks louder than a million press releases. What happens next is anyone's guess. Will BIGHIT finally break its silence? Will Jungkook address the footage? Or will the silence stretch longer, becoming the loudest confirmation of all? One thing is clear: the world is watching. And this time, they're not just watching Jungkook the idol. They're watching Jungkook the human. The young man who has given everything. The artist who may now be asking for something in return. Freedom. Freedom to cry. Freedom to step back. Freedom to be heard, not just seen, and perhaps freedom to leave. But if this is truly the beginning of a rift between Jungkook and BIGHIT, then when did the cracks first appear? And how long has the agency been trying to cover them up? To answer that, we need to go back, far before military boots hit the ground, far before the tearful footage, back to a time when Jungkook still stood at the peak of the entertainment mountain. And yet, even then, fans noticed that something had shifted. When Jungkook released 7, the global sensation that seemed to set his solo path ablaze, there was excitement, of course, but also confusion. Fans rejoiced at the visuals, the rhythm, the allure. But behind the glamour, many noted a discomfort. Where was his voice? Not vocally, his talent was never in question, but creatively. Where were his fingerprints on the concept, the lyrics, the visuals? In interview after interview, Jungkook's words hinted at limits. "I want to show more sides of myself," he said in one. "There's still more I want to express," he shared in another. These weren't just humble artist reflections. They were coded pleas. Was he already warning us back then? Several close observers have stated that while BIGHIT outwardly promoted solo freedom, the reality behind closed doors was far more curated. One staff member who worked during the 2023 solo project schedule claimed it wasn't really his show. He had opinions, sure, but it was always trust the process, trust the brand. Sometimes I wondered if he felt like a guest in his own music. A guest in his own music. That phrase alone has sent tremors across fan communities, now that the image of a tearful Jungkook in uniform is etched into global memory. People are beginning to connect that were long ignored. A fandom once swept away by choreography and high-gloss trailers is now scrutinizing every syllable, every micro-expression from past live streams and interviews. What once seemed like nerves now feel like warning signs. What once felt like humble deference now feels like muted resistance. Is it possible that Jungkook has been emotionally pulling away for much longer than we realized? And if so, why didn't BIGHIT act sooner? Because if the rumors are true, if BIGHIT is unprepared for Jungkook's emotional exit from the entertainment world, then we're witnessing one of the greatest management failures in K-pop history. Not just the loss of a superstar, but the alienation of a human being who once considered the stage his sanctuary. The mystery thickens with each passing hour. No official press release. No Instagram post acknowledging the viral footage. Not even a thank you from BIGHIT on the completion of Jungkook's military training, a standard practice even for lesser-known idols. And it's that silence, ominous, calculated, or perhaps just paralyzed, that fans can no longer ignore. Some believe this is BIGHIT's damage control strategy, starve the narrative until it dies. But others argue that silence in this context is more than damage control, it's confession. A quiet admission that yes, something is wrong. That yes, the bond has fractured. That yes, the golden magne, the one who always danced, always smiled, always delivered, is no longer sure if he wants to come home. But what is home anymore? Is it the dorm? The studio? The millions of streaming listeners? Or is it something Jungkook has lost along the way? The feeling of joy, of agency, of choice? And that's the word that seems to haunt this entire story. Choice. Did Jungkook ever truly have one? When he joined BTS as a teenager, bright-eyed and bursting with talent, he gave up everything: normalcy, privacy, even adolescence. He became property of a machine. One that, for all its brilliance, was never designed for emotional fragility, was never designed for human complexity. And now, that machine might be watching its most beloved piece break down live in front of the world. The weight of 10 years in the spotlight, the sacrifice of youth, the pressure to never disappoint. It all comes crashing down in those few seconds of leaked footage, and BIGHIT's silence now feels less like protection and more like abandonment. There's a haunting quote Jungkook once gave in a rare behind-the-scenes video. "Sometimes I wonder who I would have been if I wasn't me." No one thought much of it then. But now it feels like the ghost of a future he might still be chasing. What happens if Jungkook decides he doesn't want to come back? What happens if he walks away? No press tour, no fanfare, no final concert. Can the world accept that? Can BIGHIT? Can the rest of BTS? And most importantly, can he? Because maybe this isn't just about agency contracts or military pressure. Maybe this is about a boy who became a man too fast, and now wants time to grieve everything he lost on the way up. A few hours after the footage went viral, one fan tweeted something that has since been reposted over 400,000 times. We asked for Jungkook the idol. He gave us everything. But now we need to let Jungkook the human breathe. The tweet ends with a single, heartbreaking question. Is it our turn to give him back what we took? The world waits. Will Jungkook return? Or is this the beginning of his final goodbye?